Morning, everybody. Welcome to another week of sequestering here in the US. So last week we talked about data privacy in times of crisis, and I was really lucky to be able to join some amazing people, both on my panel and then also for the overall conference. With Brittany Kaiser, Joe Toscano, Dele Akande. These are all people that are just, I was just so happy to be able to join, and we had some really great conversation last week. As soon as we have video available of that, we'll be posting it. So this week we're going to continue this conversation a little bit more, right? Data privacy in times of crisis. And in particular, what we were talking about last week was what can your company do and what can you do? So the article that I'm posting this week, today, and what we're talking about this week is an article specifically from privacyinternational.org. And so they have gone through and listed all of the companies that have, okay, let me take a step back. It's not all the companies because that would be an extremely large list. But they have listed quite a few companies who have cooperated with governments and who are providing data to help track COVID and coronavirus. And so, and what they've done, like, it's not just location data, it's health data, it's personal information. And so we've started this conversation, and I think that what we'd like to continue on is how can your, look a little bit more about how can your company be helpful here, but not go too far. So we want to delve into that a little bit more this week. And what we're also going to do is working on providing a little bit more structure for these daily videos so that there's a little more focused and a slightly different, a little bit of a different structure, like in terms of company spotlights, some interviews coming up. So looking forward to some exciting things. But first, let's cover the article that I've posted. So this is from Privacy International, and the first part of this is really a long list of companies and data that they're using, proposals that they've given to the US government, ways that they're cooperating with the US government to help track COVID and what kind of data they're providing. And then it goes on to ask what is a series of questions that I think it's important for anybody to ask, right? So like when your company is sincerely considering how can they help during this time and what kind of data should they be collecting, what kind of data should they be sharing, then it helps to ask a few important questions. And a lot of times when people do come to me for advice, what should I be doing? I can't give you straight answers. I can't say, do this, this, and this. It's not a prescriptive formula, right? It's the same reason that data ethics requires a workshop so that you can figure out what data ethics means to your company, because you cannot define your company in the same way that another company might be defined. But there are questions that you can ask. So one of the first questions I always ask, whether it's quite frankly a time of crisis or it's not, is how you're using the data. Like, what do you want to use this data for? Are you just junk piling it? Like, hey, I'm just gonna collect all this data, I'm gonna put it in this back room. I'm never gonna open the back room unless I really need something, and I might need something, but I might not need something, but I'm just gonna keep piling it in here. For those of you who have like a junk drawer or a junk room, it's like, well, I'm kind of afraid to throw this away because I'm not entirely sure. I might be useful a decade from now, it might not be. So it's not exactly how data works, nor should it be how data works. So I've seen companies who are like, well, I think I should just collect data. No, the first step is defining what is your objective. What do you need to use the data for? How do you plan to use the data? What are you going to do with this, right? So what's your objective? That's the first one. And then once you have your objective, once you know how you're going to use this data, the rest of this kind of falls in line, right? So because from there, you're like, well, all right, well, I want to use it for this. Okay, great. Can we use it for this? Is that like, all right, so do you have the technology set up? And then here comes the questions of should we use this, right? Is this what my customers are expecting from me? Is this what I've told them? Have I been transparent with how I've proposing to use this data? Have I had a conversation with them that says, hey, here's how we're planning to use your data. You okay with this? Because that comes to the next section of like, we're not just junk piling data. We have an objective. We have a clear objective. Here's how we're going to use it. Here is how it's beneficial for my consumer. Here's how it's beneficial for my company. And then we're asking that, can you do this? Because you can ask, how can I do this, right? The technology behind it. And then you have to also ask what's next is, should you do this? Should this be something that you are doing? And that's where your more ethical approach comes in. And that's where there are sometimes things where you're like, no, I can do all this. I have everything in line. I have a good objective, but I probably shouldn't do this because the benefits to my consumer and the trust that my consumer would have in working with my company. So the benefits are just, it's not worth the risk, right? So then you're looking at a risk management situation. And so this week we're going to delve much further into this, but I encourage you to take a minute, scroll through this article, read a little bit about how, the questions, are you being transparent? Does it respect data protection principles? And then also, I get it. We don't live in this idealistic world where you can't, we just can do good just for the sake of being good. You still have to make sure that your company, especially if you are a publicly traded company, but you have to be profitable. But are you being profitable in a healthy, sustainable way, or are you being profitable in a way that could lead to further issues down the road? So things to consider. Read through the article. Let me know if you guys have any questions this week that you'd like to have covered, because we'll be talking about data privacy, continuing data privacy in times of crisis, and continuing this conversation. Have a good Monday, guys.